I had the question come up recently on how I would create a five-sided surface like this. Now there's tools that you can use, and I would not do this in the real world if I'm looking for a high quality surface. If I'm looking just for a quick fix, something just to release, I might do this. With the fill surface, you can go in there and create a quick little surface like that. If you look at the complexity and the amount of math involved on that surface, it's going to be pretty ridiculously high, and in no way is this a high quality Class A surface. If I look at the, let's go to control points, there we go, you can see what that surface looks like. If I go to segmentation, you can see what those segments look like. The solid lines mean that I have various segments on that surface. Okay, so we turn that off. So that is a hack, in other words. The way that I would really approach this, slightly different, is I would go in first and use a multi-section surface. And in this case, I'm going to create a surface that goes from this section to this section. I'm going to reverse that, impose my tangency, and use this guide curve. This curve is a spline that runs through, is tangent to these two ends, and sits on this surface. Now that I have that in there, the next thing I need to do is define another guide from this to this section. For that, I'm going to go in there and start out with an isoparametric curve. I'm going to drop it in here, and I'm going to go in and draw in a spline. With this spline, I'm going to impose my tangency from here to here, and geometry on support to this surface. What this allows me to do now is throw in another surface. Let me change the color of this so we have a better visualization as far as what's going on. There we go. So what I want to do now is I want to drive another multi-section surface. So this multi-section surface is going to go from this curve to this surface, this curve to this surface, reverse that, go into my guides, guide 1, guide 2, and select OK. Let me go ahead and split this. And once again, change the color so we have good visualization. Go back to my gray. Now, what this allows me to do at this point is I can modify this curve to get the look that I want flowing across this surface. So now I have really good control over those highlights as such. What this also allows me to do is, because of the way it's built, I can go in there and modify this radius on this. Let's go here, and we'll go to the styling fillet. So if I make a modification to this, everything else is going to update in its aggregate. So this is a good way to build these corners. If you're using a NURBS package like an Alias or something in Freestyle, you can build them basically the same way. You just have to make sure that you're holding the initial surface to, or this initial blend to this surface. So that's why I drive a curve in through there. And now I have all sorts of inputs that I can modify to get the flow of the surface looking just the way that I want. If I analyze this with, let's say, highlight lines, there we go. Let me change the color of these so it's a little easier to see. So now it just becomes a question of making some slight modifications to get these to flow the way that I want. And as you can see, I can tweak that, sweeten that up a little bit. I may be able to go in here and modify some of these curves up here. As you can see, all I have is tangency on these curves. Whoops. Hit the wrong button. So curvature, curvature, and you can see how this is changing shape. I can do the same thing with this spline down here. And if you need to, you can modify the tension to get this to go and look the way you want. Another option that I have is the initial multi-section surface that I created. I also have the ability to come in here and specify curvature for these ends. And as you can see, things start wrapping around nicely.